Hey guys, Public back with another video, and today I want to talk about racial bonuses in World of Warcraft and how they pertain to your Shadow Priest, things to keep in mind when selecting a race for your Shadow Priest, and just kind of my personal thoughts on the whole matter. So let's dig into what races to consider going into Shadowlands. Okay, so before I go into any of these guys, I pretty much only made this video because I get asked this question all the time. I know every time when I've been doing beta videos, I like change my races and people are like, oh my gosh, is this race overpowered? Is this the one to go to? And just to quell all that stuff, it doesn't really matter, right? I think at most, if you're looking at like the worst race to pick for Shadow Priest and the best, that gap is basically equivalent to not enchanting your chest. That's kind of what it is. It's about 1% damage, right? It's really not that big of a deal. The only reason I bring this up because there are some things that are not necessarily directly contributing to your damage that you might want to consider. Like specifically, one, how does it look? Like, is it fun to play? Like don't pick something just because it's best, and then if it looks terrible, you're gonna hate it, and then you're not gonna play your Shadow Priest. That's not fun, right? So there are some utility options as well to consider, and I think that's kind of why I wanted to make this video, to kind of level set everyone's expectations on what this really means, right? People might say like, oh, this race is really overpowered, like everyone should be it, and honestly, guys, that's not really the case. For some people's playstyle, it might be, but that doesn't really matter. But nonetheless, we do run the numbers for all this stuff. If you want to see whatever's up to date based on when you're watching this video, the charts website that has sims for all things Shadow Priest does have a section covering these racial effects and which ones kind of end up where. There are some things I kind of want to notate here is that going into Shadowlands as a Shadow Priest, we're going to want a lot of haste. So Intellect is a great stat for us. There really aren't that many racial bonuses that affect Intellect, so that's why you don't really see those races at the kind of top tier. But for the most part, you're seeing a great benefit out of being either Goblin, Gnome, or Night Elf specifically, because all three of those give some kind of haste buff. I'm not an Alliance expert. I believe Night Elf, you only get the haste at night, and then crit is during the day or something like that. So keep that in mind depending on what time you're playing your character. It might be a little bit different. Not that Night Elf crit is bad, but you know, obviously the haste part of it is really solid. And honestly, these are kind of I guess what you would call S tier racials for us as a Shadow Priest, just because of that haste bonus. Now, that being said, you know, Goblin specifically is probably the most popular race as like a raiding Shadow Priest, just because of how powerful the rocket jump is from the Goblin. So that's why I think you'll see a lot of people pick it, because one, the haste benefit feels great to play with, especially when you're first kind of gearing out in the Shadowlands. Getting that early haste is really nice, as well as having rocket jump on progression, or just doing raid fights is you know, historically been a very nice thing to have. So a lot of people like going with that. Personally, I've never mained a Goblin. I've had some Goblin characters, but that transmog is not my favorite all the time. But we'll get into that in a second. Now, that being said, if we kind of move past that kind of S tier, if you go down just a smidgen, like just barely below those guys, there's a kind of another, I guess, tier of, we'll call this the A tier or whatever, of racials. And this pretty much kind of has a lot, again, Alliance races. So Draenei, Void Elf, Troll, and Dark Iron Dwarf are kind of sitting at this next level here. Now, a lot of that's because these guys are just boosting your intellect, right? And we already talked about how good intellect is. Void Elf's bonus is a little hard to sim, but if you kind of pair that with Hungering Void, you add all these multipliers together, Void Elf does end up doing pretty well as well. Troll, again, kind of honorable mention here, just because we got PI back, we have all these cooldowns that we're lining up again. The big Berserker haste for that opener can be very, very powerful, especially depending on what Covenant you've chosen. So Troll is always going to be a good choice as a Shadow Priest. I do want to give an honorable mention here to humans. We've historically seen humans always being really, really good for Shadow. However, because we've done this kind of level squish going into Shadowlands, we're going down to level 60. I guess we already are on the pre-patch. And just in general, the amount of secondaries that we have basically falls off a cliff after pre-patch. You're going to go back into like single-digit levels of haste and crit and stuff, at least for a while, until you get some Castle Anathria gear. Human will get better as we go along with the expansion, because we'll have more secondaries. As of right now, it's kind of comfortably sitting in this like A, B tier. Like, it's fine. It's kind of sitting with most of the other racials in the game. Generally speaking, every racial in the game is hovering right around 1% damage increase. That's where most of these guys are living. Things above that are, you know, at like 1.2, 1.3% increase. And those are the ones I've already mentioned. So if I haven't mentioned a race that you like personally, you're probably fine. A lot of those guys, and again, we can look at the charts website and see this, they're pretty neck and neck with each other. It does kind of depend slightly if you're looking at, the composite stuff, which is kind of dealing with like ads and rate events and movement, or just looking at pure single target. But for the most part, there's a giant clump of them that are all very close together, and that's kind of what you see. Now, that being said, I know this might anger some people, but the Volpera as a race just does not provide a whole lot of DPS throughput. So if that's something you're looking for, that one's not very great. It basically does nothing. There is no kind of passive benefit. There's an active ability, but it's just not very good. So I do want to call that out. You're going to get a little bit less bang for your buck with that race, but if you like the way it looks, then play Volpera, right? The other thing I do want to mention in this quick little video is that both Dark Iron Dwarves and Dwarves have an ability to actually clear out bleed effects, which is actually looking to be very, very powerful. Inside of Castle Nathria specifically, there are almost like every boss has some kind of bleed that can be cleansed with this. They've recently kind of pared this back. It used to work on a lot of different things, but it is just kind of a nice benefit to the raid, especially if you're, in a progression guild doing Mythic. This can be a very nice thing to pick up. So highly consider picking up Dwarf. I know personally, Dark Iron Dwarves look amazing in my opinion. We just leveled up some new characters, and I'm very jealous that I don't play on Alliance. I think they look amazing, but is what it is. So again, I think, keep this in mind when you're choosing your race or going into Shadowlands. I think for the next couple days, they might even still be on sale, depending on when this video goes up. So consider doing that if that's something you want to do. I know I have no idea what I'm going to pick. I did a survey talking about things. I mean, personally, I really like the way Zandalari Troll and Maghar Orcs look. I'm curious what you guys think. I'll leave a note in the description. How seriously you guys check out Wowhead. They have a dressing room for all the Castle Nathria armor. The cloth tier set looks absolutely fantastic. So I'd recommend just like going in there, checking it out, see what you like. Honestly, the actual the damage difference between these guys doesn't really matter. Pick at the end of the day what you like, and just have fun. It's a game, All right, this is it for that fun little video. Hope you guys, learned something or picked up something new about all these amazing little racial benefits. Again, check out the charts website if that's something you're interested in. But again, that is it for this video. Thank you so much to the Patreons that are supporting me. Hope you guys are enjoying all these great videos we're putting out lately. Thank you so much for watching, guys. We'll see you in the next one.